Grandmaster Nightfalls are back in D2 for the remainder of the season starting today. I therefore figured I could maybe give an answer to any of the following questions in today's video. What is the overall GM lineup? What Adept Loot should I care about? Any tips or weapon recommendations for GM farming this season? And fuck, marry, kill Destiny Edition? Let's dive right in and answer what we can. First up, the GM rotation for the season, which is right here. Glassway, Lightblade, Fallen Saber, Disgraced, Exodus Crash, Devil's Lair, and then again Glassway, Lightblade, and Fallen Saber. It is possible Bungie could switch up the order out of nowhere because Bungie is crazy like that, but it should be in that exact order. If you're wondering how I know all of this, I just take a lot of notes, and then I put together a custom GM calendar every season, which I then put up on my Patreon page. And yes, I have a Patreon. I also have a Twitch channel too, for that matter. I've been a partnered streamer for literally years, and still each week I have someone coming into chat all like, bro, I've been watching your YouTube since D1. You stream? Gotta stop doing Raid Shadow Legends ads and just start plugging my fucking Twitch channel at this point, apparently. This really neat looking image isn't from my Patreon though. I should be really clear about that. It's actually from my buddy EK, who you should definitely follow. His image is much cleaner than my calendar, but it has all the same information. And I know it's probably a dumb idea to show it when I'm also trying to plug my Patreon page, but whatever. There's other good stuff on my Patreon too. No lemon bar takers yet though. Weird. Anyway, yeah, that is the GM lineup for the season. Reminder that the power level requirement is 1595 for GMs, and even if you go above that, it will not matter. 1595 is a hard cap for GMs, so even if you're an uber grinder and you're somehow power level 1700, again, won't matter. Just worry about getting to 1595 with all your gear and artifact together. The what Adept Loot should I care about question is kinda up to whatever you're into, but I have my own answers if you care. Adept DFA is kinda in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, you can smoke people with it in PvP. It's not a bad hand cannon, it's a 140 RPM, which are permanently meta, and it has perks like Perpetual Motion, Fragile Focus, Opening Shot, and even timed payload, which is kinda awesome. My only problem is that by now, everybody and their goddamn mother has a God Roll 140 RPM hand cannon or 12 in their vault. I mean, hell, the DFA is a kinetic hand cannon too, so it has to compete with the likes of Crimson, Ace, Ostringer, Luna, and my Forever Bay, Thorn. That competition is morning wood level stiff, and I just don't have the time to bother. Therefore, anytime Adept DFA is in the GM rotation, my eyes will roll back into my skull and I will hibernate and or watch cat videos and violent anime for the remainder of the week to pass the time. But you do you. The Adept Mindbender is on the table for the first time ever, coming in twice for your farming pleasure. First on the week of October 11th, and then again on the week of November 22nd, allegedly. D2 veterans know that the OG Mindbender used to strike fear into the hearts of blueberries everywhere back during its initial run in PvP before getting sunset. Don't get me wrong, there's a part of me that's psyched it's back, but holy neutered loot pool, Batman. There's still a few things here we can make work though. Snapshot and Threat Detector in column 3 are both looking like preferred options for PvP. In column 4, things get interesting. Steady hands will give more handling, which shotguns always enjoy. Swashbuckler could be interesting. Being able to dish out 33% more damage means you could essentially extend your one-hit kill range by a teeny bit. Fragile Focus looks cool, but 90% of the time I'm aping down some poor schmuck with a shotgun, I'm already taking damage from them trying to frantically kill me, so that perk might be a no for me. Well-rounded is tempting. You can activate it by landing a melee or just throwing out a grenade. Lately, I've decided I'm probably not getting into heaven anyway, so I've been playing a fair amount of Osmiomancy Warlock. Well-rounded and the ability to throw 2 grenades looks kinda dope on paper. I might end up gunning for that perk in column 4. Not as cherry as my OG quick draw snapshot Mindbender, but what are you gonna do? I probably will end up trying to farm for Adept Mindbender one or both times it comes around, depending on how good my RNG is. The downside though is that the Mindbender is tied to the Lightblade Grandmaster, a notoriously annoying Nightfall. Thankfully, there are weapon loadouts you can use to make that much easier, but I'll touch on that later after the loot talk. The Adept Duty Bound should be the blast weapon that will appear in the loot rotation more than once, and on God, I want to know who at Bungie thinks that people actually really like this gun. I mean, sure, Duty Bound is good for PvE, I guess. I'll give credit where it's due, but I feel like we have an abundance of dank PvE primary weapons right now. You could try to go for stats for all and one for all together, or you could go with the hilarious triple tap and 4th times the charm combo. For me, I'll probably just end up passing though. God help me if you ever catch me trying to farm GMs for an auto rifle. Militia's Birthright has one role that I care about and one role only: auto loading holster in column 4 and blinding grenades in column 2. Quick draw or lead from gold in column 3 would be nice, but I'm not really that picky. Auto loading blinding is such a godly endgame PvE launcher role, I can't even tell you. You can just immediately immobilize entire waves of trash with just one trigger pull. I already have blinding and auto loading energy grenade launchers, but have yet to get a kinetic one, and you can bet your bottom dollar I'll be grinding my skinny white ass off on October 25th when the Adept Militia enters the rotation. Especially because if the predicted schedule is correct, that would be the only week to grind for the Adept Militia's Birthright. Mark it down. Adept Horror's Least is up for grabs the week of November 1st. That could go either way for me. I have a couple good rolls right now from last season, but I still have yet to grab the elusive perpetual motion kill clip god roll combo. Last season, I grinded for a few hours with Cool Guy. In game, I mean. Phrasing, and he ended up with multiple perpetual motion kill clip rolls immediately, probably because he worships the devil. I might just call my rolls good enough and save the grind time, but it could be worth it for you if you're a big fan of the archetype. Finally, we have Silicon Neuroma appearing just one time, allegedly, on November 8th. This one is up to you. On the PvE side, I think it's a safe bet that Bungie will eventually either nerf linear fusion rifles or buff sniper rifles. In the event that either option goes down, it might be a good idea to have a god roll sniper waiting in the wings. Triple tap and firing line is a very tried and true PvE combo. In fact, it's one of the roles I have, ergo I probably won't be grinding out the Adept Neuroma when it shows up. If you like the feel of Neuroma in PvP, you could always try to go for the snapshot opening shot combo. I essentially already have that role on Bite of the Fox though, which also has the very odd 43 zoom value found on the Neuroma. Again, when Neuroma does show up, I won't be grinding, but it still is a good gun. You should try to grab one if you like clicking heads and the gun feels good to you. Alright, tips for farming GM Nightfalls this season. Arc, and more Arc. Given what we know so far, and provided Bungie doesn't change anything, 5 out of the 6 GMs we have this season all feature an acute Arc burn. The only exception is the Glassway, which should feature a Void burn. Glassway is also one of the 3 GMs that should show up in the rotation twice, meaning that 7 out of 9 GM Nightfalls this season will feature an acute Arc burn. Weapon-wise, now would be a great time to farm Duality and get a god roll Storm Chaser. That thing is already a DPS machine, and remember, with an acute arc burn, you'll be getting an extra 25% damage output. If you got a Sail Spy Pitch Glass crafted, you could also bring that. It doesn't get firing line the way that Storm Chaser does, but it does have access to Volt Shot, a wildly satisfying perk in PvE, even without an acute arc burn. I prefer Storm Chaser due to the extra 25% damage output from firing line, but I do get the appeal of Volt Shot. Another weapon to bring, Gallarhorn. Yep, Gallarhorn.
But Fallout, you said that the acute burns were all arc and one void. Why would you?
Because Wolfpack rounds. Remember, G-Horn gives other legendary rocket launchers in the area Wolfpack rounds for free. So the play is you give one person on your GM Nightfall team the Gallarhorn, and the other 2 members of your fire team put on Hothead. I mean, technically they could put on any other arc rocket launcher. It wouldn't really matter. But Hothead has been featured a lot in the past, and if you're a dedicated GM farmer, you probably have a good roll or 2 laying around somewhere. TLDR, 1 G-Horn and 2 arc rocket launchers, and you will bury champions in Season 18 immediately. On Hothead, I usually like to go with Clown Cartridge for the guaranteed 2 in the chamber. Yeah, they don't hit as hard as Vorpal or Explosive Light, but 2 quick rockets with an acute arc burn and Wolfpack rounds, and half the room goes down. Even though Lasting Impression does do the most extra damage, I've been avoiding it lately because the delayed detonation makes it really annoying to effectively nuke champions quickly. You pretty much have to have perfect timing every single time, and it can get rather annoying. I much prefer prefer a clown cartridge, but you do you. Divinity naturally could also be on your team, especially in GMs that feature overload champions. You've got all the benefits you normally get with Divinity, which is insane, plus an extra 25% damage output and the ability to stun some champions. Godly weapon in PvP, always consider bringing it. Come to think of it, those three options right there, I would consider the big three, meaning I'll probably have one of those three weapons on me at all times in Season 18 GM Nightfalls, no exceptions. Other weapons not in the big three that you should still consider bringing to a GM. Trinity Ghoul. Yeah, you'll be giving up an exotic slot for a primary weapon, but Trinity Ghoul is super fun in PvE for crowd control. You get the 25% extra acute arc burn damage, and on top of that, we also have access to overload bows on the artifact. Tarnished Metal and or Brigand's Law. Between the two, I'm probably going to lean a little bit more into Tarnished Metal because in GM Nightfalls, I usually prefer to keep my distance if I can. The reason I'm recommending those two is that, again, they have access to Volt Shot. Acute Arc Burn Volt Shot is dangerously effective and will help you a ton in clearing the room. I should also mention that Tarnished Metal can take advantage of Anti-Barrier Scout, and if you haven't noticed yet, literally every GM in Season 18 features barrier champions. If you don't have a good Tarnished Metal, I would recommend going for that right now. I've got a video up on the channel about getting Deep Sight Season of Plunder weapons. I'll link that down in the video description. On the subject of barrier champions, Arbalest. Yeah, it got nerfed. Yeah, it's still really good though. Again, linear fusion rifles right now are the meta in PvE, so if your armor is already stacked up with LFR ammo finder mods, reloader mods, or whatever to feed your Storm Chaser, might as well slap RB on too. Arbalest has the unique ability to punch through any elemental shield and deal with barrier champions, which again are featured in every GM Nightfall this season. Kind of a no-brainer if you ask me. Wishender. I personally prefer RB, but Wishender got buffed recently and is performing very well in PvE right now. I'm always a tad hesitant to give my exotic choice to a primary weapon, but hey, I might be using Adept Hothead and have my exotic slot free for primary use. Keep in mind that even though Wishender is intrinsically anti-barrier now, and we have access to Overload Bow, it doesn't work the way that you're hoping. You can't have one exotic weapon capable of dealing with two types of champions at the same time. Wishender will only ever stun anti-barrier champions despite the Overload Bow mod. Two more weapons to touch on really quickly, one of them being Thunderlord. Yeah, it's kind of a bold call running Thunderlord over something like Hothead or Storm Chaser, but the new and improved Thunderlord is fun and also has the ability to stun Overload champions. Not even through the artifact mod, I mean. Like, the gun literally now on its own will stun Overload champions. Fun option for sure, also good for crowd control in a pinch. And finally, Izanagi's Burden. Not an arc weapon, but still a beast damage dealer in endgame PvE. Remember the old tried and true mathematical formula. 2 Izanagi's Burdens plus 1 Divinity equals many dead champions. It's always great to have your primary champion killing loadout be 100% reliant on special ammo. That way you can have someone on your team slap on special finisher, and then both Izanagi and Divinity are fed so easily. Also really helps that we have anti-barrier sniper on the Season 18 artifact, and again, every GM this season features a barrier champion.
Ooh, Fallout, you forgot about...
Yeah, I know. These aren't the only weapons that you can use in GM Nightfalls. Risk Runner, Delicate Tomb, Cold Heart, Fourth Horseman, Wither Horde, Blinding Grenade Launchers. It's a long list. I mainly just gave you the weapons I'm probably going to lean on the most. Otherwise, it would be an hour-long video. The bottom line is that you know what to expect in each GM and to plan accordingly so you can get whatever dank loot you're trying to get. Real quick, loadout-wise, anything ARC should be at least kind of effective in Season 18, but classic options are still going to be great too. Mainly Camo Abuse Hunter and Radiant Well Warlock. I do want to give a special shout-out though to Heart of Inmost Light Touch of Thunderstorm Grenade Titan. I made a video covering that build, and while it was mainly for PvP, holy crap, this build claps in endgame PvE. If you're a Titan, go ahead and ride Touch of Thunder, Heart of Inmost Light until the wheels fall off. You will be the go-to ad clearer for 90% of these GM runs. Okay, other loadout recommendations that anyone can take advantage of to a great degree. IMO, it is 100% mandatory that if you're new to GMs and you fire one up, you are A, pimping out your Resil to 10, and B, putting on any combo of the following mods: Thermoshock Plating, Concussive concussive dampener, or sniper damage resist. The reason you really want tier 10 is that now you get extra damage resist the more resil that you have. Tier 10 resil caps out at a whopping 40% extra incoming DR. Anything you can do to keep yourself alive longer in GM content is the way to go, IMO. The 3 mods I mentioned for your chest armor will also help you do that. Extra recommendation for thermoshock plating because it covers 2 elements at the same time, including arc, which will be rough to deal with in the acute arc burn meta. If you want even more DR, you can try running a charged with light build featuring protective light, but remember that did get nerfed a while back. It's not as powerful as it used to be. If you have any way of generating solar elemental wells, Well of Life can also do well in a pinch, working as kind of a bootleg Loreley helmet. I could do an entire TED talk on every piece of exotic armor that could help you in GM content, but I'll narrow it down to the few that I like the most. For Titans, Heart of Inmost Light, as I already mentioned, or the Loreley helmet if you really want to maximize staying alive. Warlocks, Starfire Protocol for offense, Phoenix Protocol for defense, and weird pick, Verity's Brow, which you can use if you have a Heart of Inmost Light Titan on your team. Hunters, Sixth Coyote, Gerfalcon, and Omnioculus. And remember, if you can't make up your mind on what exotic to equip, the Aeon Gauntlets are god tier on literally every class for the ability to generate heavy ammo on demand. Consider it your forever optimal fallback option. I'd recommend ringing the notification bell if you haven't already on my channel, because if there's a week where Bungie surprises us by giving double loot drops or whatever, I may drop an updated GM guide if I feel like it. I probably won't do GM guides every week because, again, sometimes I just don't need whatever adept weapon is dropping, or the GM happens to be annoying and I feel like it might not be worth it. But either way, like and sub so you don't miss out. Oh, and for the final question, Jez, Dado, and the Drifter, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on stream.